In this pod, we'll explore some key reasons why businesses need finance. In other words, why they need to borrow money.
The main reasons businesses need money are generally short-term or long-term. In business, short-term normally means less than a year, while long-term means more than a year. A short-term need for finance is generally to help with working capital. Working capital means the day-to-day money that a business has. Working capital is like the money you have in your wallet. It isn't a true reflection of your entire financial position, but it shows the money you can use right now. Short-term finance is for things like paying for stock or bills that have come up. These are the day-to-day expenses of a business.
Longer-term reasons for finance are for more significant expenses. This would be things like purchasing new equipment, opening a new store, or even starting a business in the first place. How a business gets this money depends on whether they need short-term or long-term finance. For example, if a business needed money for purchasing stock, it wouldn't get a large bank loan just to cover this.
Within a business, finance is managed by the finance department. The finance department don't make the money, they simply manage it. They would organise getting loans or other sources of finance, and then help the business plan how to use the money, for example, by setting budgets. If they negotiated a large loan, they would ensure it was used by the correct departments for the correct expenditures. Expenditure just means the action of spending money, but it sounds more professional and will hit a business key term, so it's worth using it in your own examples too.
Let's look at an example now. If you decided to open your own store, you would need to raise finance. If you opened a new barber's or hairdresser's, you'd need money for a whole range of reasons. To buy out all the equipment, to renovate the salon, to pay staff or buy materials and stock. Even here you can see there are different reasons for finance.
The purchase of the equipment would be an example of long-term finance, as you're going to need that equipment long-term. To support long-term needs, businesses often use methods such as a bank loan, but the purchase of materials such as hair products wouldn't require a bank loan. Bank loans are essentially money you borrow from the bank. They can take time to arrange, they're very formal, they have specific terms and conditions, and you'll be charged a fee for borrowing the money as well as having to pay it back within a particular time period. So, for buying some shampoos and hair gels, this would be very much over the top.
Paying for staff is a long-term expense, but you wouldn't use a method like a bank loan to cover this cost. If you're paying staff wages out of a bank loan, this isn't sustainable, as eventually those loans need paying back. You're now in debt, and you will still need to pay your staff. Things like staff wages should come out of the working capital of a business, which should be gained from business earnings. Having said this though, a new business might need some upfront money to pay for staff until it begins earning enough.
So, there isn't one type of finance that's used in every situation, but there are realistic types of finance a business would use depending on if it's a short-term need or a long-term need. Some final key phrases that are useful for you to know are startup capital, additional working capital, and capital for expansion. So, let's think about how they fit in. All three are examples of why you might need a loan. When your business is starting out, you'd need some startup capital. This is money that's there to maybe buy products, premises like a shop, or even equipment. Then, additional working capital may be needed to pay your employees before you start making money. Generally, people don't want to wait until you're successful to be paid.
Then, when you need to increase production, you may need expansion capital. As the name suggests, expansion means your company is getting bigger, but sometimes the profit alone won't be enough to expand, and while you're remaining small, you're missing potential sales. Imagine you have thousands of orders, but you can only make 100 until you buy a bigger warehouse or better machinery. You'll need a loan to make that initial large investment, which will then result in more sales in the long run.